Cursed crowns与 broken vows. Chapter 1 The Betrothal of Blood. The winter snow bled over the marble spires of Vera, the smallest and most sacred kingdom in Western Europe. For 300 years, the royal house of Vera had borne an unbreakable curse. Every trueborn princess would love once, and lose everything to that love. Princess Ilara Vera stood on the frost-kissed balcony of her bedchamber, her ivory gown sweeping the frozen stone. At 20 years old, she was the most beautiful maiden in all the western realms. Pale silver hair that fell to her waist, sea blue eyes that held the quiet sorrow of centuries, and a gentle heart that had never known cruelty. Her entire life had been bound by duty. Bound to her kingdom, bound to the ancient treaties, bound to a man she had never met, Prince Kale Aurelia, the heir to the mighty Aurelian Empire. Kale was a name spoken in fear across the continents. He was 23, tall, ruthless, with raven black hair and piercing amber eyes that burned like wildfire. He had crushed 3 rebellious dukedoms before his 20th birthday. He had no mercy, no softness, no belief in love. To him, marriage was nothing but a political weapon, a chain to bind the weak kingdom of Vera to his unstoppable empire. Your Highness, her lady-in-waiting whispered, bowing low. The imperial envoys have arrived. The betrothal ceremony is to begin in 1 hour. Ilara's fingers tightened around the cold iron railing. She had dreamed of love once, as a little girl, of gentle hands, soft words, a life free from crowns and curses. But dreams died in royal palaces. I know, she said, her voice soft as snow. She did not know that behind the gilded palace gates, a storm was waiting to destroy every piece of her. In the grand throne hall of Vera, torches blazed against the winter cold. Nobles from every corner of the realm gathered, their velvet robes and golden jewels glittering under the crystal chandeliers. And then he entered. Prince Kale Aurelia walked through the double doors, and the entire hall fell silent. He moved like a predator, every step deliberate and cold. His black military uniform was embroidered with silver imperial crests, his shoulders broad, his gaze sweeping the crowd with unmasked arrogance. When his amber eyes landed on Ilara, standing alone on the royal dais, there was no warmth, no admiration, only cold, calculating possession. This was the woman he was to marry. A delicate, fragile princess. A tool. Ilara's breath caught. She had heard tales of his cruelty, but nothing prepared her for the raw, dangerous magnetism of him. The archbishop stepped forward, opening the ancient book of vows. By the grace of the crown and the gods above, we gather today to bind the houses of Vera and Aurelia. Do you, Prince Kale, swear to protect Princess Ilara, to honor her as your lawful wife? Kale's gaze never left Ilara's face. His voice was low, gravelly, devoid of any emotion. I swear it. The hall echoed with his words. Do you, Princess Ilara, swear to serve and obey your prince, to unite your realm with his? Ilara's sea blue eyes trembled. She looked into his cold amber ones, and for a foolish, fleeting second, she hoped. Hoped that somewhere inside this ruthless man, there was a heart. I swear it. The vows were sealed. The crowns were exchanged. But no one knew the curse had already woken. No one knew that Kale's heart already belonged to another girl, a girl who looked exactly like Ilara, but far easier to break. A girl named Serafina. Chapter 2 The Fake Twin Shadow. Serafina stood hidden behind the marble pillar at the back of the hall, her lips curved into a sweet, poisonous smile. She was the illegitimate daughter of an Aurelian duke, raised alongside Kale since childhood. She had loved him for 15 years. She had spent every day watching him, craving him, waiting for the day she would be his queen. And then he had been betrothed to a foreign princess. A stranger. Whereas Ilara's face was a mirror of her own. The same silver-tinged hair, the same blue eyes. But Serafina was smarter, crueler, hungrier for power. She knew Kale hated weakness. She knew Ilara's gentle kindness would bore him in days. She had spent months weaving her web. She had planted letters, spread rumors, whispered lies in Kale's ear long before he came to Vera. The Princess Ilara is selfish. She cares nothing for her people. She has mocked your empire behind your back. Kale had believed every word. As the celebration banquet began, Ilara stood awkwardly beside her fiancé. Nobles swarmed them with toasts and flattery, but Kale never spoke to her. His arm was stiff around her waist, his gaze distant, his mind elsewhere. Your Highness, Ilara whispered, summoning her courage. Thank you for coming to Vera. Kale glanced down at her, his amber eyes cold. Save your gratitude. This marriage is politics, princess. Do not mistake it for affection. Her heart cracked open, quiet and painful. I understand, she said, lowering her gaze. Just then, Serafina glided forward. She curtsied deeply, her voice soft and honeyed, perfectly mimicking Ilara's gentle tone. Your Imperial Highness, Princess Ilara. I have long admired your grace and beauty. Kale's entire demeanor shifted. The coldness in his eyes faded, replaced by a familiar softness that Ilara had never seen. He smiled at Serafina. A real smile. Serafina, he said gently. You need not bow to anyone here. Ilara froze. She watched the way he looked at the other girl. The way his hand brushed Serafina's arm in a secret, intimate touch. The way Serafina's eyes glinted with triumph as she met Ilara's shocked gaze. In that moment, Ilara realized the terrible truth. He did not just know this girl. He loved her. And Serafina was using Ilara's own face to steal her crown, her marriage, her future. Chapter 3 The Wrong Wedding Night. The royal wedding was held 1 month later, in the imperial capital of Aurelia. Ilara left her homeland behind, crossing the frozen sea to a foreign empire, alone and afraid. Her parents kissed her forehead and told her to be strong, to save Vera with her marriage. No one warned her she was walking straight into a trap. The wedding day was grand beyond imagination. Golden carriages lined the streets, thousands of subjects cheered, the cathedral bells rang for hours. She wore a white silk wedding gown stitched with diamond stars, her hair woven with royal lilies. She looked like a goddess. But Kale did not look at her once during the ceremony. His eyes searched the crowd for Serafina. That night, the bridal chamber was bathed in candlelight. Red rose petals covered the floor, silk curtains draped the grand four-poster bed. It was the most beautiful room Ilara had ever seen, yet it felt like a gilded cage. She waited for her husband, nervous and trembling. She was innocent, untouched, naive. She had hoped that after marriage, he would see her truth. That he would learn to love her. The door opened. A man stepped inside, drunk and heated. Ilara stood, lifting her gaze. Kale. Before she could finish, strong arms pulled her into a rough kiss. His hands were desperate, greedy, nothing gentle about him. But in the darkness and the haze of wine, it was not Kale. It was a drunken imperial knight, bribed by Serafina. Serafina had swapped the guards, drugged the prince's wine, and arranged the ultimate humiliation. She wanted Ilara's wedding night destroyed. She wanted Kale to believe Ilara was impure, unworthy, a traitorous whore who had betrayed him on their wedding day. The night was chaos and terror for Ilara. She struggled, she cried, she begged, but no one came. The doors were locked, the palace guards turned a blind eye. By dawn, the night was gone. Ilara lay on the cold bed, her wedding gown torn, her heart shattered into a million pieces. Minutes later, Kale entered the room. Sober, cold, furious. Serafina stood behind him, tears streaming down her face, lying perfectly. My prince. I saw everything. The princess brought a knight to her chamber last night. She betrayed you on your wedding night. Kale's amber eyes landed on Ilara's broken body, her torn dress, her tear-streaked face. He did not see a victim. He saw a liar. A cheat. A whore. He stepped forward, his voice deadly quiet. Is this true, Elara? Elara lifted her head, blood on her lip, eyes full of agony. No. Cale, please, it's not true, I was tricked. Silence. His voice cut through her words like a blade. He grabbed her wrist tightly, his grip bruising, unforgiving. I married a traitor. A shameless, dishonest girl who spreads her legs for any man but her husband. Every word was a torture. I trusted you to be my queen. Instead, you disgraced my crown. Elara screamed, tears pouring down. I didn't. Believe me. Please believe me. I believe my eyes, Cale snarled, throwing her onto the bed. And I believe Seraphina. She has never lied to me. That was the day his love for her died before it ever began. That was the start of endless, cruel torture. Chapter 4 The Queen in name only. The next morning, the entire palace knew the scandal. Rumors spread like wildfire. The new Aurelian queen was unfaithful on her wedding night. No one listened to Elara's denials. No one cared about her tears. Cale stripped her of all royal privileges. She was still Queen Elara in title only. She wore the queen's crown to ceremonies, stood beside him at feasts, walked by his side in parades, but she had no power, no freedom, no dignity. She was his prisoner. Seraphina moved into the west wing of the imperial palace, a room only steps away from the royal bedchamber. She became Cale's constant companion, his most trusted confidant. She laughed with him, dined with him, rode horses with him, slept in his study late every night. The entire court treated Seraphina like the real queen. Elara was left alone in her cold, empty chambers. Every night, she lay awake, listening to their laughter echoing through the palace walls. Every day, she watched them walk hand in hand through the gardens, whispering secrets, sharing soft touches. Cale never spoke to her except to insult her. At formal dinners, he would sit beside Seraphina, ignoring his wife completely. Your queen looks lonely, Your Highness, a duke once dared to say. Cale glanced at Elara's pale, silent face, and sneered loud enough for everyone to hear. Loneliness is the least she deserves. Elara learned to stop crying. She learned to be quiet, to be invisible, to endure. But deep inside her chest, something cold and hard began to grow. The gentle princess was slowly dying. A stronger, angrier woman was being born. One afternoon, she wandered into the palace rose garden, alone, and found a tall man standing beneath the ivory rose trellis. Prince Lucian of Delin. Her sworn guardian, her distant cousin, the man who had loved her silently since she was a child. Lucian was calm, gentle, golden-eyed, everything Cale was not. He turned to see her, and his face softened with sorrow. Elara, he whispered. I have watched you suffer for months. Why do you not leave? Elara stared at the roses, her voice hollow. I cannot leave. If I run, Cale will declare war on Vera. He will burn my kingdom to the ground. Lucian stepped closer, reaching out to brush a tear from her cheek. Then I will protect you. I will burn his empire first. His quiet devotion was the first kindness she had known in months. And in that moment, a dangerous new thread wove into the tangled web of royal love and hate. Chapter 5 Accidental Love in the Rain. The summer rains came heavy and cold to the imperial capital. Elara snuck out of the palace one evening, desperate for air, desperate to escape the endless pain. She walked through the rainy streets of the city, her hood pulled low, hiding her queenly face. She wandered to the old river bridge, standing in the pouring rain, letting the water soak her hair and her gown. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the curse to end. She did not hear the footsteps behind her until it was too late. Cale had been riding back from a military inspection, alone, no guards. He spotted the small, trembling figure on the bridge, and for a second, his cold heart faltered. He recognized her immediately. The rain soaked her silver hair flat against her pale skin, her blue eyes glistening with rain and tears. She looked so small, so broken, so utterly helpless. For the first time in months, he did not feel hatred. He felt confused. All Seraphina's lies flashed through his mind. She is arrogant. She is cold. She does not care for anyone. But the girl standing in the rain was nothing like that. What are you doing here? He snapped, stepping beside her in the downpour. Elara flinched, turning away. Leave me alone. I am your husband. You do not command me. He grabbed her arm, forcing her to face him. The rain blurred their faces, erased the anger between them for a single moment. Their eyes locked. Kale stared into her bright blue eyes, and for the first time, he saw pure, unbroken innocence. He saw pain, not guilt. He saw grief, not deceit. A strange, hot feeling twisted in his chest. He had spent months hating her, punishing her, despising her. But now, standing in the rain with her trembling in his arms, he felt something he had never felt before. Longing. Confusion. Love, uninvited and unwanted. He hated it. He hated her for making him feel weak. But he could not let her go. Without thinking, he pulled her into his chest, wrapping his arms around her soaked body, shielding her from the rain. Elara froze completely. She could feel his heartbeat against her cheek, fast and rough. She could smell the rain and the cedar of his cologne, feel the warmth of his body after months of coldness. Kale, she whispered in shock. Be quiet, he muttered, his voice gruff, his jaw tight. You will catch a fever. That rainy night was the only soft moment they ever shared. A single, fragile truce between hatred and love. But Seraphina saw them from the end of the bridge, hidden in the shadows. She saw him hold her. She saw him soften. And her jealousy turned into murderous rage. She would destroy Elara completely before she let Kale fall for his own wife. Chapter 6: The Fever and the Fake Confession. Elara fell ill 3 days after the rainstorm. A high burning fever consumed her, leaving her bedridden, delirious, weak. Kale told himself he did not care. He told himself she deserved her sickness for her sins. But every night, he found himself walking to her chamber door, staring at the closed wood, unable to walk away. He began to visit her in secret, when Seraphina was asleep. He would sit beside her bed, watch her feverish face, listen to her mumble broken words in her sleep. Don't hate me. I didn't do it, please. Her whispered please haunted him. Seraphina noticed his restlessness. She noticed he was slipping away from her. So she crafted her deadliest lie yet. She snuck into Elara's sick chamber at midnight, held Elara's weak hand, and whispered fake words that a hidden guard recorded. I am sorry for sleeping with the night. I am sorry I betrayed you. I only married you for your empire's power. It was a fabricated confession, spoken over Elara's delirious, unconscious body. The next morning, Seraphina brought the audio recording to Kale. Tears streamed down her face as she handed it to him. I did not want to show you this, my prince. I did not want to break your heart further. But you deserve the truth. She admits her sin. Kale listened to the broken, weak voice on the recording, and every soft feeling he had felt for Elara in the rain died instantly. Rage exploded through him. He stormed into Elara's sick room, where she was still burning with fever, barely conscious. He grabbed her shoulders violently, shaking her weak body. You admit it. You finally admit you betrayed me. Elara's eyes fluttered open, confused and feverish. Admit what? Kale, I'm sick, please. Do not play innocent with me. He roared, his voice thunderous. I have your confession. You married me for power. You cheated on me on our wedding night. You are nothing but a lying, greedy whore. He threw her back onto the bed so hard her head hit the headboard. Pain exploded through her body, physical and unbearable. I never said that. She screamed, tears mixing with sweat. I would never say that. You have to believe me. I believe proof, Kale spat. You will pay for every lie. You will pay for every tear Serafina has cried for you. He turned and left, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. And Ilara lay alone in her bed, fever spiking, heartbroken, realizing the terrible truth. No matter what she did, no matter how she suffered, Kale would never choose her. He would always choose the lie over the truth. Chapter 7 The Forbidden Kiss with Lucian. As Ilara recovered from her fever, she withdrew completely from the imperial court. She stopped attending banquets, stopped appearing in public, stopped trying to win Kale's heart. If he wanted to hate her, she would let him. Lucian visited her every day in secret. He brought her herbs from his homeland, read her poetry, sat with her in silence when she could not speak. He told her she was brave. He told her she was good. He told her she deserved to be loved truly. One golden sunset, they stood together on the palace balcony, watching the sun sink over the empire's spires. Leave with me, Lucian said softly, turning to face her. I will take you back to the inn. I will marry you properly. I will give you a life without pain, without curses, without Kale. Ilara stared at his gentle golden eyes, her heart trembling. For so long, all she had known was cruelty and hatred. Lucian was warmth, safety, home. She leaned up slowly, and kissed him. It was a soft, desperate, forbidden kiss. The kiss of a girl starved for love. But fate was cruel. The moment their lips touched, Kale stepped onto the balcony. He had come to find her, against his own better judgment, wanting to apologize for his rage during her fever. Instead, he saw his wife kissing another man. The world shattered for him. All the doubt he had felt, all the tiny sparks of hope that she was innocent, burned to ash in that single second. Rage, jealousy, and possessiveness drowned him entirely. Get away from her, Kale roared, his voice deadly and dark. Lucian pulled Ilara behind him, shielding her bravely. You have tortured her long enough, Kale. She owes you nothing. She is my queen, Kale snarled, his amber eyes blazing with murderous fury. She is mine. Every part of her. And no one touches what is mine. Ilara stood frozen, terrified. She had finally given into a moment of weakness, and now she had destroyed everything. Kale's gaze locked on her face, cold and murderous. You will pay for this kiss, Ilara. I swear to every god. You will pay dearly. Chapter 8 Brutal Confinement. That night, Kale locked Ilara inside her chambers. He ordered all windows barred, all doors guarded. No one was allowed to enter or leave. No servants, no messengers, no visitors. She was confined completely, a prisoner in her own royal suite. He came to her room alone, after midnight. The room was dark, only candlelight flickering on his furious face. He stood before her, towering over her trembling form. Are you in love with him? He asked, his voice low and dangerous. Ilara shook her head, terrified. It was a mistake. I was lonely. I was hurting. Loneliness is not an excuse for adultery. He stepped closer, trapping her against the wall. You kissed him willingly. You let him touch you. You wanted him. Every word was a blade. Answer me, he demanded. Do you love Prince Lucian? Ilara's blue eyes filled with endless tears. I don't love him. I only wanted kindness. Something you have never given me. The words enraged him further. Kindness. He laughed bitterly, a harsh, broken sound. You want kindness after you betrayed me again and again. You want tenderness after you lied, cheated, deceived. He grabbed her chin harshly, forcing her to look up at him. I gave you a crown. I gave you power. I gave you a royal life. And you repay me with treason and kisses for another man. I never asked for your crown. She screamed, breaking at last. I never wanted any of this. I only wanted you to love me. But you never did. You only ever believed Serafina's lies. Her outburst stunned him silent for a single second. He stared into her tear-filled eyes, and for a split moment, he saw the truth. He saw a girl who had loved him faithfully from the start. A girl who had suffered endless torture for crimes she never committed. But his pride was too strong. His anger too deep. He pushed the truth away. From this day forward, he whispered cruelly, "You will never leave these chambers. You will never see Lucian again. You will speak to no one but me. You will be my silent, obedient queen, and you will atone for every sin you have made." The confinement lasted for months. Days blurred into nights. Solitude blurred into madness. Elara barely ate, barely slept. She existed in a haze of sorrow and loneliness. And all the while, Serafina walked free in the palace, wearing Elara's jewels, attending Elara's events, stealing her life completely. Chapter 9: Unexpected Pregnancy. 3 months into her confinement, Elara fell violently ill again. This time, it was not fever. It was morning sickness, constant dizziness, weakness. The royal physician was forced to sneak into her chambers secretly, under Chaos' order. After examining her, the physician knelt before the queen, his face pale and shaken. "Your Highness, you are with child." Elara froze. Her hand flew to her flat stomach, shock rushing through her veins. She was pregnant. But who was the father? The brutal, terrifying night with the night, or the single, secret night weeks later when Kale, drunk and confused, had broken into her chambers and held her close, desperate and vulnerable, before passing out? She did not know. She could not tell. Terror consumed her. If the child was not Kale's, he would kill her. He would kill the baby. He would destroy Vera entirely. If the child was his, would he finally believe she was faithful? Would he finally stop hating her? She had no answer. The physicians swore secrecy, but Serafina's spies were everywhere. Within hours, Serafina learned of the pregnancy. Her eyes turned cold with pure evil. She would not allow Elara to bear the royal heir. She would not allow Elara to gain power through a child. She would kill the baby before it was born. Chapter 10: Serafina's deadly plot. Serafina wasted no time. She snuck into Elara's chambers disguised as a servant, carrying a cup of spiced healing tea. "Your Highness," she said in her sweet, fake voice. "The physician ordered this tea to calm your sickness. It will help your body rest." Elara was weak, exhausted, broken. She did not have the strength to suspect anything. She took the cup, lifted it to her lips, and drank half of it down. Within minutes, sharp, brutal pain exploded in her lower abdomen. She doubled over, screaming in agony, clutching her stomach. Blood seeped through her white gown, staining the silk crimson. Horror washed over her. The tea was poisoned. Poisoned to kill her unborn child. Serafina stood over her, smiling coldly, dropping her gentle act completely. "Poor, stupid queen," she whispered cruelly. "You thought you could win him with a baby. You thought a child would make him love you. Everything you have, everything you are, it belongs to me. Even your child." Elara screamed in pain and rage. "Why? Why do you hate me so much?" "Because you were born a princess," Serafina hissed. "You were born with a crown, with his hand in marriage, with everything I deserve. I have loved Kale my whole life. You are nothing but a replacement face. A fake. A waste." As Elara collapsed to the floor, bleeding and dying, Serafina screamed for guards. When they rushed in, she screamed her final, deadliest lie. "The queen has tried to abort her own royal child. She hates the prince's heir. She would kill her own baby to betray the empire." The guards stared in horror at the bleeding queen on the floor. And as Kale burst into the chamber, breathless and furious, the last thread of hope between him and Elara shattered forever. Chapter 11: Bloody Truth and Cold Punishment. The scene that greeted Kale was one of unspeakable carnage. Elara lay crumpled on the marble floor, her white nightgown soaked through with scarlet blood. Her skin was ashen pale, her lips blue-tinted from shock, her body trembling violently with every ragged breath. The pool of blood spread wider across the cold stone, seeping into the cracks of the palace floor like a dark omen. Seraphina stood beside her, eyes glistening with fake tears, her delicate hands pressed to her mouth in faint horror. She stumbled forward and clung to Cale's arm, her voice trembling with manufactured grief. "My prince." I tried to stop her. I begged her not to do this. She was screaming that she would rather die than bear your child, that the heir of Aurelia was a curse she refused to carry. Every word was a poisoned blade twisted straight into Cale's already broken trust. Cale's amber eyes scanned the room, landing on the empty teacup, on the side table, on Ilara's broken, bleeding form, on the desperate way she tried to lift her head to defend herself. But all he could see was treason. All he could feel was blinding, scorching rage. "Is this true?" His voice was low, thunderous, dangerous enough to shake the walls of the chamber. "You would kill my child, Ilara. You would slaughter your own unborn baby just to spite me." Ilara's vision blurred with tears and blood loss. Her throat burned, her body screaming in agony, every muscle convulsing with the pain of a failing pregnancy. She tried to speak, to scream the truth, but all that came out was a broken, hoarse whisper. "Poison, she poisoned me. Cale, please, believe me." Seraphina's grip on his arm tightened subtly, her voice soft and pitiful. "She is delirious with guilt, my lord. She knows her sin, and now she tries to blame me to save herself." Cale stepped forward slowly, his boots crunching lightly on the fallen rose petals scattered across the blood-stained floor. He knelt beside Ilara's crumpled body, his face devoid of any mercy, any warmth, any trace of the softness he had shown her in the rain. He grabbed her jaw brutally, forcing her weak, tear-filled eyes to lock onto his murderous gaze. "I have tolerated every lie, every betrayal, every act of defiance." He spoke each word slowly, cruelly, deliberately. "But killing my heir is unforgivable. You wanted no part of me. No part of this crown. No part of our future. Very well." He released her jaw so roughly her head slammed back against the floor. Ilara whimpered in agony, her hand flying weakly to her stomach, begging silently for her child to survive. "Guards!" Cale stood abruptly, his voice echoing cold and commanding through the chamber. "The queen is confined to the tower dungeon. No physician, no servant, no visitor. She will survive or perish by her own sinful choices." The guards hesitated for a split second, glancing at the dying queen on the floor, before bowing sharply. "Yes, your highness." Seraphina hid her triumphant smile behind her gloved hand, her heart singing with victory. She had done it. She had destroyed Ilara's child, ruined her reputation, and locked her away in the darkest pit of the palace. Ilara was no longer a threat. She was nothing. As the guards lifted Ilara's broken, bleeding body from the floor, she stretched a trembling hand toward Cale, her voice broken and desperate. "Cale, our baby, please save our baby." Cale turned his back on her completely, his shoulders rigid with unyielding hatred. "You lost the right to call it ours the moment you tried to end its life." The dungeon doors slammed shut behind her moments later, sealing her in total darkness, cold, and endless suffering. Chapter 12: The Dungeon and the Fading Life. The Royal Tower Dungeon was the darkest, coldest place in the entire Aurelian Empire. Stone walls dripped with freezing water, the air thick with mold and the stench of rot. No sunlight ever touched the cells, no warmth ever lingered, no sound existed except the endless drip of water and the distant howl of the winter wind. Ilara was thrown onto the cold stone floor without a blanket, without a pillow, without any mercy. Her blood continued to seep from her body, staining the gray stone black. The poison in her system burned through her veins, a slow, torturous fire that weakened her with every passing minute. Her head spun violently, her vision flickering in and out of darkness, her heartbeat slow and unsteady. She curled onto her side, clutching her stomach with shaking hands, silent tears streaming down her pale, blood-streaked cheeks. She had wanted this child more than anything. It was the only pure, innocent thing left in her ruined life. The only piece of hope she had clung to through every lie, every punishment, every cruel day of her marriage. And now it was dying inside her body, and her own husband believed she had killed it herself. No one came for her. No one checked on her condition. No one brought food or water. No one cared if she lived or died in the cold dark cell. Hours blurred into days. Elara lost track of time entirely. She drifted in and out of fevered consciousness, her body fighting a losing battle against the poison, the blood loss, and the freezing dungeon cold. Sometimes she woke screaming, clutching her stomach, terrified the life inside her was gone. Sometimes she lay motionless for hours, too weak to move, too broken to cry. Far above in the palace towers, life continued as if she never existed. Seraphina took her place entirely. She sat on the queen's throne during court meetings, wore Elara's diamond crown to formal events, dined alone with Kale every night, and walked through the palace gardens wearing Elara's favorite silk gowns. The entire court bowed to her as if she were the true queen of Aurelia. Kale never spoke Elara's name. He never visited the dungeon. He never asked after her condition. He buried himself in imperial politics, military reforms, and endless work, pushing every thought of his imprisoned wife far into the back of his mind. But late at night, when the palace fell silent and Seraphina slept soundly in the west wing chambers, Kale would stand alone on the highest balcony of the imperial tower, staring out at the dark, empty kingdom below. And a strange, hollow guilt gnawed at his chest. He told himself she deserved this suffering. She was a liar, a traitor, a child killer. But the memory of her broken, bloodied face as the guards dragged her away haunted his every quiet moment. The memory of her whispered plea, "Please save our baby," echoed endlessly in his ears. 3 days after Elara's imprisonment, Prince Lucian snuck into the imperial palace under the cover of night, disguised as a foreign diplomatic guard. He had received secret word of Elara's imprisonment, of her failed pregnancy, of the cruel injustice she was suffering alone. His golden eyes blazed with unbridled rage as he slipped through the shadowed palace corridors, moving silently toward the Forbidden Tower dungeon. He had always known Kale was cruel. Always known Seraphina was evil. But he had never imagined they would push Elara to the brink of death. Chapter 15: Lucian's Midnight Rescue and Confession. The dungeon guards were lazy and complacent, convinced the disgraced queen was too weak to fight, too broken to escape. Lucian slipped past them effortlessly, picking the ancient iron lock of the cell door with a thin metal pick, his movements quiet and precise. The cell door creaked open slowly, and Lucian stepped inside. The sight that greeted him shattered his heart completely. Elara lay motionless, on the cold stone floor, her silver hair matted with blood and grime, her once beautiful gown torn and soaked, her body shivering violently from hypothermia. Her eyes were closed, her breath shallow and faint, her skin so pale she looked already dead. Elara! Lucian rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside her, his hands gentle as he lifted her cold, fragile body into his arms. Elara, wake up! Please wake up! At the sound of his familiar, gentle voice, her eyes fluttered open slowly. Her blue gaze was unfocused, clouded with pain and exhaustion, but recognition flickered faintly in her pupils. Lucian, her voice was barely audible, a broken breath of sound. You shouldn't be here, he'll kill you. I would die 1,000 times over for you. He pressed his warm palm to her cold cheek, his eyes shining with sorrow and fury. He has left you here to die. He has abandoned you completely. Tears finally spilled down Elara's face, silent and endless. He thinks I tried to kill my baby. He hates me so much. He will never believe the truth. The truth will come out one day. Lucian held her tighter, shielding her trembling body with his cloak, wrapping her in warmth she had not felt in months. But you will not stay here to die for a lie. I am taking you away tonight. Illyria shook her head weakly, fear flashing in her eyes. If I leave, he will declare war on Vera. He will burn my kingdom to ash. I cannot let my people suffer for my pain. Your people would rather lose their kingdom than lose their princess. Lucian's voice was firm, determined, unyielding. You have sacrificed enough. You have suffered enough. For once, you will choose yourself. He slipped a small, powerful healing potion from his pocket, pressing the glass vial to her lips. Drink this. It will stop the bleeding, calm the poison in your veins, and give you strength to run. Illyria obeyed weakly, swallowing the bitter liquid. Almost instantly, the sharp, burning pain in her stomach faded to a dull ache, her vision cleared slightly, and warmth spread slowly through her frozen limbs. While she regained her strength, Lucian whispered his long-hidden confession, the words he had spent years swallowing down, too afraid to burden her with his love while she was bound to another man. I have loved you since we were children, Illyria. Long before Kael ever knew your name. Long before any crown or treaty or curse touched your life. I have watched you grow, watched you suffer, watched you love a man who never deserved you. I have waited years for you to be free. Tonight, I am finally giving you that freedom. Illyria stared up at him, her heart aching with a bittersweet sorrow. She knew Lucian's love was pure, true, unselfish. It was everything Kael's love was not. But her broken, cursed heart still belonged to the cruel, broken prince who had destroyed her life. Love was a curse for her. Always had been. Always would be. I'm sorry. She whispered brokenly. I cannot love you the way you deserve. My heart is ruined. Lucian smiled softly, sadly, brushing a strand of matted hair from her face. I do not need your love to protect you. I only need you to love. Chapter 14 The Great Escape and Kael's Rage. Lucian carried Illyria out of the dungeon in his arms, hidden beneath his thick traveling cloak, moving silently through the empty palace corridors. The night was dark, the moon hidden behind thick storm clouds, masking their escape perfectly. He had prepared everything in advance, a fast royal steed waiting at the private forest gate, a safe hidden cottage deep in the border woods, loyal guards ready to escort them across the empire border before dawn. They almost made it. They were steps away from the forest gate, the cold night wind whipping through their hair, freedom finally within reach when a deep, icy voice cut through the darkness behind them. Stop! Kael stood at the end of the corridor, backlit by torchlight, his amber eyes blazing with murderous fury. He had been unable to sleep, unable to shake the guilt gnawing at his chest, and had come to the dungeon to look at her one last time only to find her gone, swept away by the one man he hated most. The moment his eyes landed on Illyria, weak and fragile in Lucian's arms, every insecure, jealous, possessive instinct in his body exploded to life. All his guilt vanished. All his doubt burned away. Only rage remained. You dare steal my queen from her prison. Kael stepped forward slowly, his hand resting on the hilt of his royal sword, his entire aura deadly and threatening. You dare rescue a traitor who tried to kill her own child. Lucian stepped in front of Illyria protectively, shielding her body with his own, his posture unyielding. She is no traitor. She is an innocent woman tortured beyond endurance by your cruelty. You locked her in a dungeon to die for a crime she never committed. Silence! Kael roared, his voice echoing through the empty corridor. You have loved my wife in secret for years. This is why you came for her. This is why you tempt her to run. You want her for yourself. Illyria lifted her head weakly from Lucian's chest, her blue eyes meeting Kael's furious amber gaze across the dark corridor. It is not his fault. Her voice was quiet but steady. He is the only person who has ever cared if I live or die. The only person who has ever shown me kindness. Those words shattered Kael completely. The idea that she found comfort, safety, and love in another man's arms, especially after all he had done to break her, ignited a fire of possessive madness inside him that he could no longer control. He did not care if she was innocent. He did not care if she was poisoned. He only cared that she belonged to him, and no one else could ever have her. Guards! Seize them! Cale shouted. Arrest Prince Lucian for treason against the Empire. Bring the Queen back to me. If she resists, bind her by force. Dozens of Imperial guards swarmed into the corridor, surrounding them in an instant. Lucian drew his sword, ready to fight to the death to protect Ilara, but Ilara placed a weak hand on his arm, stopping him. Don't fight. She shook her head sadly. You will die for me. It is not worth it. She stepped out of Lucian's protective arms, her legs trembling, her body still weak and broken. She stood alone in the middle of the corridor, facing Cale's unhinged rage, her eyes empty and devoid of all love, all hope, all fear. You want me back? She spoke softly, coldly, a deadness in her tone that Cale had never heard before. Fine. I will stay. But know this, Cale Aurelia. Every piece of love I had for you died in that dungeon. The girl who loved you faithfully, who begged for your trust, who cried for your affection, she is gone forever. From this night forward, I am not your loving queen. I am your enemy. Cale's blood ran cold. He had broken her. Finally, completely, irreversibly. Chapter 15 The Cold War in the Palace. Ilara was taken back to the royal chambers, but the gentle, fragile girl Cale had known was gone. She returned as a hollow, quiet, calculating woman. No more tears. No more pleas. No more soft smiles or desperate attempts to win his heart. She spoke only when spoken to, moved only when required, existed in the palace like a silent ghost. A cold war settled over the imperial palace. Cale kept her close, obsessed and possessive, refusing to let her out of his sight for even a moment. He feared she would run again. Feared she would return to Lucian. Feared he had lost her forever. But he still refused to believe her innocence. Still clung to Seraphina's lies like a lifeline. Seraphina rejoiced at the shift in the dynamic. She thought Ilara's broken spirit meant victory for her. She thought the cold war between the royal couple meant she would finally take Ilara's place as queen. But she was wrong. Cale's obsession had shifted entirely. He no longer looked at Seraphina with softness or fondness. He no longer sought her company, no longer listened to her whispers, no longer trusted her words. He kept her by his side only for appearance's sake, his gaze always drifting back to the silent, distant queen across the room. Every night, he would leave Seraphina alone in the west wing and walk silently to Ilara's chambers. He would stand in the doorway for hours, watching her sleep, watching the empty, broken look in her eyes even in rest. He wanted to apologize. Wanted to beg for forgiveness. Wanted to take back every cruel word, every punishment, every moment of hatred. But his pride would not let him. His royal arrogance, his stubbornness, his years of built-up bitterness chained him in place. Seraphina noticed the shift instantly. She noticed Cale's distance, his restlessness, his fixation on the wife he claimed to hate. Jealousy curdled into pure, unbridled madness in her heart. She had spent years destroying Ilara's reputation, ruining her marriage, torturing her body and soul only to watch Cale fall obsessed with the broken ruins of the girl she had destroyed. It was not fair. She would not allow it. Seraphina began plotting her final, most ruthless scheme yet. If Cale would not choose her willingly, she would force his hand. She would eliminate Ilara once and for all, permanently, so there was no one left for him to fixate on, no one left to love but her. Chapter 16 The Hidden Witness and Uncovered Lie. Unbeknownst to Seraphina, there had been a hidden witness to her poisonous plot all along. A young kitchen maid, new to the palace staff, had been passing the queen's chambers to deliver fresh linens the night Seraphina poisoned Ilara's tea. She had hidden behind the hallway curtain, watching in terror as Seraphina slipped poison into the cup, watching as she fabricated the entire abortion lie for the guards. For weeks, the maid had stayed silent, terrified of Seraphina's power, terrified of being killed for speaking the truth. But as she watched the queen waste away in silence, watched the royal couple destroy each other over a vicious lie, her guilt became unbearable. On the first night of the Cold Palace War, the young maid snuck into Chaos' private study after midnight, trembling and terrified, and knelt before his desk. "Your Highness, I have sinned by staying silent. I must tell you the truth." Chaos looked up from his state papers, his gaze sharp and cold. "Speak quickly." The maid poured out everything. She described Seraphina sneaking into the queen's chambers, the poison she slipped into the tea, the fake cries, the fabricated accusation. She swore on her life and her family's lives that Ilara had never tried to abort her child, never spoken the fake confession, never betrayed anyone. "Lady Seraphina lied about everything, Your Highness. The queen is innocent. All the suffering she has endured, it was all a trap." Every word the maid spoke struck Chaos like a physical blow. His blood turned to ice. His hands trembled slightly on the wooden desk. Every cruel thing he had done to Ilara flashed through his mind in brutal, vivid detail: the public humiliation, the endless insults, the brutal confinement, the dungeon torture, the accusation of killing her own child. He had tortured an innocent woman. He had broken the only person who had ever loved him purely, unconditionally, from the very start. He had believed a liar over his own wife, destroyed his own marriage, killed his own unborn child with his blind hatred. The guilt that had lingered faintly in his chest for months exploded into overwhelming, crippling agony. For the first time in his life, Prince Chaos Aurelia felt truly, unforgivably evil. "Prove it." His voice was raw, broken, barely recognizable as his own. "Bring me proof." The maid nodded frantically, pulling a small glass vial from her pocket. "I saved the leftover poison from the teacup. The royal physicians can test it. It is a rare abortive toxin only grown in Seraphina's family dukedom." Chaos stared at the vial in the maid's hand, his world crumbling completely around him. All the lies, all the misunderstandings, all the pain. It had all been Seraphina. And Ilara had suffered every second of it alone. Chapter 17: Chaos Shattered Redemption. Chaos moved without thinking, driven by pure, agonized desperation. He abandoned his study, sprinted through the palace corridors, his boots thundering against the marble floors, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. He did not stop for guards, did not stop for ceremony, did not stop to process the horrific truth he had just uncovered. He only needed to see her. Needed to face the woman he had destroyed. The doors to Ilara's chambers burst open violently as he pushed his way inside. Ilara was sitting alone on the balcony, staring out at the dark night sky, her silver hair flowing loose in the cold wind, her posture quiet and defeated. She did not turn when he entered. She did not acknowledge his presence at all. She was done caring about his anger, his accusations, his hatred. Chaos walked slowly toward her, his steps unsteady, his usual confidence and cruelty completely vanished. He stopped behind her trembling figure, his voice broken, hoarse, raw with emotion she had never heard from him before. "Ilara." She did not turn. "What do you want, Your Highness? Have you come to punish me again? To accuse me of another crime I did not commit?" Her voice was cold, empty, devoid of any feeling. It shattered him more than any tear, any scream, any plea ever could. Chaos reached out slowly, hesitantly, and touched her shoulder. His hand trembled against her skin. "I know the truth," he whispered brokenly. "I know everything. Seraphina poisoned you. She lied about the confession. She fabricated every scandal. You were innocent. You have always been innocent. Ilara finally turned her head to look at him. Her blue eyes were completely dry. No tears. No anger. No surprise. Only endless, hollow indifference. You know now, she said quietly. But you did not know when I begged you. When I cried for you. When I lay bleeding in the dungeon, dying for a lie. You chose to hate me then. Your truth comes too late. Kale's eyes burned with unshed tears, a sight no one in the Empire had ever witnessed. The cold, ruthless prince never cried. Never showed weakness. But for her, he crumbled completely. I am so sorry. He knelt down in front of her, dropping to his knees before his own queen, a king humbling himself completely. I have sinned against you in every way possible. I doubted you. I hurt you. I tortured you. I let our child die because of my blind, stupid hatred. I will spend the rest of my life making it right. I will burn Seraphina for every tear she made you cry. I will tear down every lie. I will give you everything. Anything. Just please, do not hate me forever. Ilara stared down at the broken prince kneeling at her feet, and for the first time in years, she felt nothing. No love. No pain. No sorrow. It does not matter anymore, Kale. She stood slowly, stepping away from his kneeling form, distancing herself from his remorse. The child is gone. My trust is gone. My love is gone. You can burn the world to apologize, and it will never bring back what you destroyed. You lost me. And you will never get me back. Chapter 18 The Prince's Desperate Obsession. Kale remained kneeling on the cold marble balcony long after Ilara turned her back on him, long after her final, merciless words sank into his shattered heart. The frigid night wind whipped through his black hair, biting at his skin, but he felt no cold, no pain, only the suffocating weight of his own irredeemable mistakes. He had stood tall and arrogant atop his empire for years, crushing enemies, bending kingdoms to his will, fearing nothing and no one. He had believed his crown made him untouchable, his power absolute. But in a single night, he had lost the only thing that had ever mattered, the only pure light that had ever slipped into his dark, lonely world. Ilara returned to her chambers without a second glance, her steps steady and unwavering. She shut the balcony doors firmly, sealing him out, sealing away every last trace of the boy who had once made her heart flutter in the rain. The glass panes separated them like an unbreakable barrier, truth on his side, emptiness on hers. Kale rose slowly to his feet, his limbs heavy with guilt and despair. His amber eyes, once blazing with rage and authority, were now dim and haunted, clouded with an agony no royal title could ever ease. He knew she was right. His apology was far too late. His truth was useless to a woman who had already endured hell at his hands. But he was not a man who knew how to surrender, not to war, not to loss, and certainly not to the emptiness of a life without Ilara. If she would not forgive him willingly, he would spend every breath of his life earning her forgiveness. If she would not look at him, he would devote his entire empire to making amends for the harm he had caused. The first light of dawn spilled over the palace spires, painting the sky in pale streaks of gold and pink, but Kale did not move from the balcony. He stood guard outside her chambers all night, silent and rigid, a penitent king begging for a mercy he did not deserve. As the palace stirred to life, servants and nobles beginning their daily routines, Kale finally stirred. He wiped the faint redness from his eyes, masking his broken vulnerability behind the cold, imperial mask his court knew well, but the hardness in his gaze was no longer fueled by cruelty. It was fueled by vengeance and remorse. He would deal with Seraphina first. The lying, scheming woman who had torn his marriage apart, who had killed his unborn child, who had poisoned every day of Ilara's short, suffering life in his palace. Kale strode through the palace corridors with a deadly, quiet fury, his boots echoing like a death sentence. All servants bowed and scattered at his approach, sensing the unhinged wrath rolling off their prince in thick, suffocating waves. He headed straight for the west wing chambers, the rooms Seraphina had stolen from Ilara, the chambers she had decorated with stolen jewels and stolen hope. Seraphina was sitting at her vanity, brushing her silver-tinted hair, humming a soft, triumphant tune to herself. She had spent the previous night celebrating her victory, convinced Ilara was broken beyond repair, convinced Kale would finally turn to her completely. She heard the door slam open and turned with a bright, loving smile, ready to greet the man she had spent her entire life craving. But the second she met Kale's icy, murderous gaze, her smile froze on her lips. The warmth was gone. The fondness she had manipulated for years was vanished entirely. All that remained was unbridled hatred. "My prince," she began, voice trembling, already sensing disaster. "Do not dare speak my name." Kale's voice was low, lethal, devoid of any mercy. He stepped forward slowly, towering over her trembling seated form, every inch of him a storm of retribution. "Every lie you told. Every tear you stole from her. Every wound you carved into her body and soul. I know all of it." Seraphina's face drained of all color. The brush slipped from her fingers, clattering against the marble vanity. Panic exploded in her chest, sharp and terror-stricken. "Kale, you cannot believe her. The maid lied. Ilara twisted the truth to ruin me." "Silence." He cut her off sharply, his tone sharp enough to slice skin. "I have the poison. I have the witness. I have every proof of your treachery. You fooled me for months. You made me torture my innocent wife. You made me kill my own child with my blind hatred." He leaned down, his face inches from hers, his amber eyes blazing with the fire of a man who had lost everything. "You ruined the only good thing I ever had. And you will pay for every single second of her suffering." Seraphina scrambled backward, falling off her vanity stool, collapsing onto the floor in a messy heap of silk skirts and terror. Tears spilled down her cheeks, fake no longer, genuine fear finally breaking through her perfect mask. "I did it for you," she screamed desperately, scrambling to grasp his cloak, her fingers clutching uselessly at the fabric. "I loved you. I only ever wanted you. She was weak, she was unworthy of you, she could never love you like I do." "Law." Kale laughed bitterly, a harsh, broken sound that curdled the air. "You call this law? Poison, lies, torture, destruction. You do not know the meaning of the word. You only know greed, obsession, and cruelty." He ripped his cloak free from her grasping hands, stepping back to stare down at the sobbing woman at his feet with unyielding disgust. "You are stripped of all titles, all lands, all privileges." He spoke in cold, imperial command, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You are no longer a lady of the Aurelian court. You are a traitor, a criminal, a child killer. You will be imprisoned in the lowest dungeon cell, the darkest and coldest pit in this kingdom. You will live in the same darkness, the same hunger, the same agony you forced upon my queen. You will rot there for the rest of your days." Seraphina screamed, wailing and begging, pleading for mercy, for forgiveness, for the love she had spent a lifetime chasing. But Kale turned away without a single flicker of remorse, her cries fading into meaningless noise behind him. He did not look back. Mercy was a luxury he had denied Ilara. He would never grant it to the woman who had destroyed her. Chapter 19 Empty Crowns and Lifeless Days. The palace shifted overnight. Seraphina's arrest sent shockwaves rippling through the entire Aurelian court. Nobles whispered in terror, realizing every rumor they had believed, every judgment they had cast upon the Queen Ilara, had been a vicious lie. They realized they had all stood by and watched their innocent queen suffer, too cowardly to question the false narrative, too eager to fawn over Seraphina's false charm. Guilt settled heavy over the entire court, thick and suffocating. Kale dismantled every trace of Seraphina from the palace. He burned her gowns, shattered her jewels, erased every portrait, every gift, every trace of her existence from his empire. The west wing chambers were locked and abandoned, sealed off forever, a tomb for his foolish blindness. But no amount of distraction could erase the pain he had inflicted on Elara. He returned all her privileges, restored her full queenly power, returned every stolen jewel, every royal title, every right that had been stripped from her. He issued a public imperial proclamation, addressing every kingdom in the realm, confessing his wrongful judgment, declaring Elara's complete innocence, and condemning Seraphina's treachery for all of history to see. He gave her everything she had lost. Everything except her love. Elara accepted his reparations silently, without gratitude, without anger, without any emotion at all. She resumed her queenly duties, sat upon her rightful throne, attended court functions, ruled with quiet, steady grace, but she was hollow inside. She moved through the palace like a ghost, beautiful and untouchable. She spoke to Kale only when politics required it, never meeting his eyes, never lingering in his presence, never acknowledging the desperate, guilty longing he wore like a chain around his neck. Kale devoted every waking hour to atonement. He softened his cruel imperial rules, lowered heavy taxes on border kingdoms, sent endless supplies and protection to Vera to repair the damage of his past threats, and ruled his empire with a kindness he had never once possessed before. He became a better king, a better man, all for her. But Elara never noticed. She ate her meals alone in her chambers, walked the gardens alone at dusk, stood on the balcony alone every night, staring out at the kingdom that had once been her prison. Kale lingered in the shadows, watching her endlessly, starving for a single glance, a single word, a single hint of the girl who had once loved him so fiercely. He slept outside her chamber door every night, a royal prince reduced to a silent guard, too afraid to intrude, too broken to leave her side. He endured her cold indifference, her silence, her hatred, because he knew he deserved every bit of it. Weeks passed in this endless, painful stalemate. The palace was quiet now, stripped of Seraphina's schemes and chaos. There were no more lies, no more scandals, no more false accusations. The truth was clear to everyone. But clarity could not bring back their broken family. Truth could not resurrect their dead child. Atonement could not mend a heart that had been shattered beyond repair. One evening, as the golden sunset dyed the palace roses crimson, Elara finally spoke to Kale unprompted. Her voice soft and flat, no warmth, no malice, only final, unyielding closure. You have punished the guilty. You have fixed your empire. You have cleared my name. She turned to face him for the first time in weeks, her blue eyes empty and calm. Now leave me be, Kale. Let me live in peace. Kale's chest tightened painfully, his throat closing up. He stepped forward slowly, his voice raw and desperate, every ounce of his pride stripped away. I cannot. He whispered brokenly. I cannot live in a world where you exist and hate me. I will leave you in peace if you ask it of me, but I will never stop loving you. I will never stop waiting for you. Elara's gaze did not waver. Then you will spend the rest of your life waiting for nothing.